Welcome to Taste the World. In this episode, we'll be traveling to the beautiful country of Montenegro, and we will be making a sweet apple cake. Let's get our ingredients together and get started. Devin, let's tell our friends where the country of Montenegro is.
In Eastern Europe, on the Balkan coast.
Very good. That's right, friends. Montenegro is in the Balkan region of Eastern Europe, and it is a coastal country. It's very small. Not too many people live there. 60% of the country is actually filled with mountains and rivers. As we make our sweet apple cake today, let's pretend that these 5 beautiful red delicious apples are the mountain tops of Montenegro. Let's talk about the ingredients that we need to make our apple cake today. What do you think is our magic ingredients?
Apples.
Of course, we need those apples. We also need some eggs, some sugar, flour, and we'll finish it off with some powdered sugar. As far as tools go, we have a few things we need. We've got our spoons over there and our whisk. We've got a KitchenAid mixer. Any kind of hand mixer will work fine. A bowl. We have some other tools like measuring cups, a cutting board, a knife, a peeler, a spatula, and this funny looking cake pan. What do you think this is? This is called a spring-form pan, and it's really fun to work with. We're gonna talk about this a little later on in the episode. So get your supplies ready and let's bake. Not too long ago, Montenegro became its own independent country, and that's why it's got its name Montenegro after its black mountains, which are so fun to explore. Before we start our cake, we first need to prep our apples, and the first step in working with fruit is always to wash it. So go ahead and let's wash all these apples up, get them nice and clean, and then we'll start cutting. So friends, we've got a lot of chopping and cutting to do. We first need to peel our apples, then we'll cut them into nice thin slices, which will become the base of our cake. Whenever you're working in the kitchen with a knife, you always need to have a grown-up there with you, making sure that you're being as safe as you possibly can be. When I cut an apple, I always start by cutting off the top and the bottom of the apple. Then we're gonna put this away because this is dangerous, and we'll switch to using our peeler. So when we peel an apple, we start from the top and we go smoothly to the bottom. And we're gonna do this all the way around the edge of our apple. Did you know that the apple is actually very nutritious for you, and even the peels are delicious? You could just eat these peels if you wanted to. Now keep your fingers out of the way. Hold on, this is the blade, so we need to switch it here. Keep your fingers back here. And then we're gonna just go down like this in a nice smooth motion. And turn the apple so your finger's not too close to it. There we go. In the country of Montenegro, they speak a language called Montenegrin. Makes sense, from the country of Montenegro. Thank you so much for getting those apple peels out of my way. In Montenegrin, I would say hvala, which means thank you. You want to try?
Hvala.
Right. And if we want to say the word yes, we say da.
Da.
And the word no is ne.
Ne.
Right, da and ne. And hvala. You can try that at home. You're speaking Montenegrin. You guys at home can use any kind of cake pan that you want. It could be rectangular, could be circle, it could be a heart shape. Any kind of pan is fine. But what is this one that we like so much? What is it called?
A spring form.
Spring form. And the reason why we like it so much is because it does a magic trick. Watch this. If I open this little latch here and I pull this off while the cake is cooling, dun dun dun, the cake will be there and I don't have to dig it out. That way we can flip it over and dust it with powdering sugar, and it looks so pretty. If you have some baking paper, sometimes it's called parchment paper at home, go ahead and cut out a round the same size as your cake pan and put it at the bottom. That way when we're layering our apples in there and we bake it, it won't burn, and it will be easy to make it look really pretty at the end. So we're going to move to slicing up our apples. They are just so good looking. Smell? I love the smell of apples, so good. So we are going to cut these up into small, thin slices, and I will hand them to you. Never put your hand close to your grown-up who's helping you when they're cutting their apples, because you don't want to accidentally slice any of your fingers. Okay, so we need a lot of nice thin apple slices here. We want them to be really pretty so that our cake is consistent all the way through. Go ahead and take those, Devin, and start putting them into our pan. layering them around. You can do a pretty shape pattern if you want to, or you can just plop them all in there. However you want to do it is great. When we were in Montenegro, we stayed in a cute little town called Budva, and it's right on the beach, and there's these beautiful hotels there and restaurants and shops, and you can go to the beach and find all kinds of interesting rocks. And looking at these makes me think of those gorgeous rocks. Do you remember the different colors of rocks you guys found when you were on the beach?
Found like turquoise, purple, pink,
red, black, all
gray,
the different colors, and you had the most amazing rock collection. And all around the rocky areas, there's these old towns. One of them is called Old Town Budva, and it's got all of these high walls, cobblestone streets, lots of little shops and cafes. It's so charming. It looks like it's right out of a book. So fun to explore. You guys love scrambling up and down the rock sides right next to the village and going in and out of the little caves. Such a fun place. If you go down a little bit, you go to a place called Sveti Stefan. Do you remember that place?
Sveti Stefan.
What did you do at Sveti Stefan? You had a really special experience there.
Yes, I baked with a chef.
Yes, you baked with Chef Dijon, and you cooked some local food that people in Montenegro love to eat. What was it?
Octopus.
And grilled vegetables, right? You didn't know much about seafood because we're not huge seafood eaters, but we had to learn really fast when we went to Montenegro. And you got to learn to cook with sea urchin and octopus and all kinds of interesting things. So when you made the octopus, you learned how to grill it, how to season it, and how to plate it. In cooking, plating is so important. It comes at the very end of the cooking or baking experience, and it's when we take the thing that we've made and we put it onto a plate and we get it ready to serve. So when you did your plating with Chef Dijon, you made like an art piece, really. It was so pretty, and you were splattering things and drizzling things, and it was just gorgeous. So we'll have to be thinking about how we're going to plate our sweet apple cake today. We are going to put our eggs into our bowl. Let's go ahead and crack them. Crack, 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 and putting it in. Good job. Do you want to do the final one? You can put it right there. There you go. It's okay to get messy, friends, no problem. That's part of baking and cooking. Good job. Okay, so we've got 3 eggs in our bowl. We're going to add our sugar. Go ahead and add 1 cup of sugar. And then when we mix that up, it's going to grow 3 times in volume. Volume means size in this case. So we're going to let it grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and only when it's ready we will fold in our flour. It's okay if it gets stuck. We'll just use the spatula to tease it out of the bowl. And then we've got every last little bit of it. We can't miss sugar, right? It's too good. And we will just let it mix. And remember, it has to grow into 3 times the size that it currently is. Bigger and bigger and bigger. So what we're doing here is we're putting as much air into our eggs as we can. We want this cake to be really light and fluffy. It has a wonderful texture to it when it's all done, but we've got to get the air into the eggs. Great, this looks really good. Look at that. It is ready for our flour. Let's put a cup of flour into here. We're going to do about 1/3 at a time. Just a little bit of flour, and then we will do something called folding it. So we are going to fold the flour into the batter without losing all the air. So do you see how gentle I'm being? Kind of introducing it to each other, but very, very gently. Just very gently. Do you remember going on this awesome speedboat tour in Qatar? Do you remember? The Bay of Qatar. We took out this brand new speedboat. It had never gone on the water before, supposedly. Maiden voyage, the first one. And we took it out. We had a whole half-day tour of the Bay of Qatar. The Bay of Qatar is filled with mountains. There's little tiny islands. Some are real, some are man-made. There's all kinds of history having to do with the World War II era. There's even places where submarines used to be. I imagine if you had to park a submarine somewhere, it would be pretty hard to find a parking spot. Where do you suppose you would put a submarine?
In a tunnel?
Yes, you know because you went there. On our boat tour, we saw these cool submarine tunnels. And back in World War II, during the time of Hitler and the Nazis, all these things were happening right around Europe. And so the Nazis hid some of their submarines in these tunnels that were built into the side of the mountains in Montenegro. And they were so fun to go into, to see, and then to zip right out of. Also on that tour, we saw a beautiful blue cave. Do you remember that?
Yes.
We didn't think we could actually fit the boat into the cave because the opening was so small, but we were able to fit inside, and then we just jumped right off the side of the boat and went swimming. We saw dolphins there. There was so much to see on this experience. One of our favorite cities was the old town of Qatar. This is a walled city, like many cities were back then. They were really more like towns than cities, and they would put this fortress around them, and sometimes the fortress would go all the way up on the mountain behind them. We actually climbed to the top of that fortress, didn't we? Very long hike. Oh my gosh, it was so hot. But when you get up to the top, you can see that there's this bay where today it's cruise ships that come in and out of there, but back a long time ago, they had all these ships coming from different parts of Europe, and they were bringing things to trade with different people. So it was a port city. So they would put this wall around their town to protect it from invaders. But what came with the ships were also different kinds of animals. One of the kinds of animals that came were mice, rodents, rats, and they began to run into the city and invade it and make all kinds of disease and bad things. But another animal that came was cats. And the city of Qatar was actually saved by cats. So I'm putting the batter into our cake on top of our wonderful apples that you layered so nicely. And I remember this story about how cats saved the city of Qatar. What happened was one morning, all the cats in the city, hundreds of cats in the city, started making this shrieking, wailing sound, kind of eerie, and everyone started to go, what? Why are all of the cats crying? But we know that animals can feel things, especially about the earth and the weather, that we don't even know or understand way before we can. So the people of Qatar started to get worried. They said, okay, we know that there's an earthquake coming, and these cats are making this screaming kind of sound. We think something really bad is about to happen. So they got everyone in the city, they took all the cats they could find, all the people, and they got out of the city. They evacuated the city. They got out, and right after they finished getting out, the earthquake happened. And over 400 towns throughout Montenegro were destroyed that day. All the people in the city of Qatar were saved because of the cats. So now, even to this day, when you go to Old Town of Qatar, you see hundreds of cats everywhere. They're on tables, they're underneath the windows and inside the doors, and all the people of the town care for them. They take them for care when they need care, they feed them, they pet them, they love them, because they know that their city would not be here today if it wasn't for those cats. Okay, final step. We need to go ahead and shake all of our batter to get it nicely fitted around our apples. Go ahead and do that for us. Just shake the cake a little bit, twist it around, shake it some more. We're getting all that batter, nice, fluffy, light batter, to just fit around those apples so that when we flip our cake over, we'll see the apples sitting on top. Looks good. What do you think, Chef? You ready to put it in the oven?
Yes.
Cool. Montenegro is filled with so much natural beauty, and one of the things we loved was exploring both caves and canyons. We went on this beautiful tour of Lipa Cave, which is, they think, millions of years old, and you have to go 24 stories underground. How cool is that? And it's very cold when you go in caves. Do you remember what the word is called for people who go caving or going into caves? Starts with an S. Spelunking. Spelunking. Spelunking is so much fun. It's where you get to go deep inside of a cave, usually with a guide, and they show you all around the different parts of the cave. Well, this particular cave had all the different kinds of ornaments. They're called cave ornaments. Stalactites, which hang from the ceiling, stalagmites, which grow up from the ground, and stalagnites, which are when the two touch and then make a column. Speaking of all those wonderful places in Montenegro, There is a very special canyon there that borders another country called Bosnia and Herzegovina. Big mouthful of a name for a country. People like to call it just Bosnia for short because it's easier. There is a canyon that is the second largest canyon in the whole world. The first largest canyon is the Grand Canyon in the United States of America, and the second one is this one. And it is called the Tara River Canyon. And there you can go whitewater rafting. And we decided we had to try it, right? We have 4 little kids. You're one of them, right? And our youngest is 3 years old. So we didn't know, could we actually go whitewater rafting with a tiny little one? We certainly could, even though some of the rapids are very, very intense. The trick is having a guide who cares a lot about your safety and knows what he's doing or she's doing on the river. So we got our raft and we started heading down. It was several hours of being on the boat and just going down these whitewater rapids. They were pretty big, right?
Yes.
At the beginning, everyone was feeling pretty scared, myself included, because I'd never been whitewater rafting before. But as we got comfortable with it, we started to understand how to maneuver the boat and to get it down the different rapids. We started to get more excited about the experience. And pretty soon, all 4 of you little girls were just hanging at the front going, yeah, faster, faster. Devin, what was your favorite part about whitewater rafting?
I loved at the end that he told us to go one side go left and one side go right. And we went spinning down the rapids.
That's right. As we went over the rapids, we were going in full circles all the way down. I mean, really, it's like a kid's dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was the best. Great, Devin, our cake is done. It looks so beautiful. The way that we test to know if a cake is really done and ready to get out of the oven, I did this before I took it out of the oven, is to take a toothpick and to stick it into the middle of the cake. And if you bring it out and it's clean, that means it has nothing on it, no batter or any of the insides of the cake, then it's ready. So we know that our cake is all done. Great work. Now comes our fun part. This is where we get to see the magic of the spring-form pan. So when you have a cake like this and it has been baked in this kind of pan, we can find the edge of the spring-form and we're gonna open it up and we're gonna release our cake from the pan. Shake it just a little bit. Then, dun, 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 look how great it looks. Now we are going to flip our cake very gently. It's still a little bit warm. We could wait a little longer even till it cools down a bit. I'm gonna flip it upside down and get ready to plate it. Wow. Okay, remember we have that baking paper here, so we have to peel this off. Take it off of our cake, and then we're gonna see all these wonderful layers of apples that you so neatly did. Whoa, look at that, Devin. Okay, let's pull off this final piece. Wow, look at that, beautiful. Okay, so now it's time to plate our dessert, but before we do that, we are going to leave it on the cutting board to put our powdered sugar on. We're going to use this device. Just put a little bit in here and we'll shake, shake, shake very gently. This is usually what people do when they're plating their sweet apple cake. Okay, let's gently put it here on our plate. Oh, that's gorgeous. I love it. Look how pretty that is. So we've gone ahead and cut out a couple of slices of cake and look how pretty they look. You can see the layers where you've put the apple and where the batter of the cake, when we poured that over top of the apple slices, just kind of fit itself around the slices and made for such beautiful layering. Thank you for joining us today to go to Montenegro and making a sweet apple cake. We enjoyed baking with you. We'll see you again soon. Bye!